Good morning, Neil Betts here from Go True North, doing another video in our Vision to Venture series. Been a while since I've done one, but today is going to be a great conversation. So I'm here today to talk about unlocking local business success through marketing and networking. And on the couch with me today is Alex Murray from The Best Of.
Good morning, Neil.
Do you want to just give a brief overview of what The Best Of is all about?
Yeah, The Best of Walsall's been going 15 years and we help and support the marketing and networking of about 320 businesses across Walsall. And in that end we run the Best of Walsall website where we get between 50 to 70,000 people on a month, as well as we run regular network meetings, we do social media for the businesses. We try and educate the businesses from fairly new businesses right to established ones. How can they make the most of marketing in their business?
So you're obviously connected to a lot of small businesses, particularly around the Walsall and the group. What are the most common traits that bring success to those businesses?
It varies dependent upon the type of business, but there's a common theme with businesses in terms of, first and foremost, that when they set up, they've done their research. I see a lot of businesses that don't do their research in the market. They think, oh, this is going to be great, and actually it falls over.
Yep.
So this is very important to me when I'm talking to them, and in understanding what their avatar is. And really, I mean, is businesses can't be all things to all people.
Yeah. Okay.
And so what they want to do is to make sure that their services that they offer are niche to some degree.
What's unique about them and their value?
100%. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, also around there'll be a few marketing mistakes that are made by a lot of businesses. What are some of the common things that you see that?
Yeah, just going back on the businesses. The small businesses who are new set up tend to say, "Oh, well, I'm cheap in the market." Yeah, they don't look at value, what's good value in the market, rather than cheap. And in terms of marketing mistakes, some of the marketing mistakes that I find is, first and foremost, they rely on the Facebook groups. They don't put money into marketing. So they'll get premises, they'll get stock, and it's almost like man standing on top of a hill with mouth open, waiting for duck to fly in.
And they will come.
And they will come. And so they have to look at marketing as an investment, not a cost. Yeah. And if it works, invest more in it. And so often I'll see a business and I'll ask them, well, what have you done in your marketing? Well, I've got a Facebook page. Yeah. How many likes have you got? Oh, I don't know. Yeah. And they're posting on there and nobody's seeing it.
And it sounds like they've got no purpose either. In
no, or they don't have sufficient different types of route to market. And so they'll rely on one. So you'll see some of the trades that will just rely on checker trade. The trouble with checker trade, yes, it can work. However, if you get a bad review, you go down the bottom of the pile. So it's feast or famine. And so what they really need to do is have lots of different routes to market. So whether that's leaflets, websites, whether they're looking at doing socials, they need to have different strands to make sure that they capture their audience, as well as when they look at their avatar, are they hitting that right market?
Yeah, when you're talking about avatar, I've seen a lot of startups that they fail to actually understand the problem they're trying to solve first for whatever their product or service is. But once you get them coached through, what is the problem you're trying to solve and who you're trying to solve that problem for, the next mistake I see is they don't message that well through the socials. They don't really target the right audience, the right people. I think that's what you're calling the avatar. They're not really
100%. And they then don't think of where those people are.
Yeah.
And they don't spend enough time on their business, rather than in their business.
Yeah,
and if people don't understand that, it's almost around quadrants of time, spending time, in the very important non-urgent sector. So what they're doing is they like to spend their time doing stuff rather than thinking about the business and the ways to develop their market.
So when we start looking at the best of your business community, how can startups or businesses get the most out of a community like that to gain visibility and attraction?
Well, first of all, get out there. And I've always worked in business, and I've been in business 40 odd years. You have to scare yourself every month for a business to go forward. And there's a number of network groups, and we run a network group, and we'll get 35, 40 coming to a breakfast meeting. And what they'll do is they'll sit down and they'll talk about their business. And you're only ever about 5 people away from knowing the world. And it's not necessarily to sell their own service, but to communicate or give them ideas about what's happening in their own market. So it's all about know, like and trust in networking. People have got to get to know you, people have got to get to like you, and then they trust you before you do business. So you've got to persevere. But I've seen businesses that have, I've got a plumbing business, and he'll openly say that 60% of his business comes from networking. The reason? Because there aren't many plumbers that go out networking because they don't want to communicate what they do. They're happy on the tools, but they're not very good at talking to people.
I know at the last breakfast meeting there was a lady who'd phoned up and she'd got a flood going on, and the plumber went in and fixed the flood, but then he, through the network, got somebody to go in and help restore the house, deal with the aftermath of the plumbing incident. So that was, I saw that happen at a breakfast, that conversation of an experience that went on just with 2 groups in your network. So.
Yeah, I think you picked up about community. I'd also say that, in larger businesses, you've got your CSR, which is corporate social responsibility, and getting involved with the community. And I'll always say to any business I deal with, you've got to treat this as a business. If a business succeeds, it's your fault. If a business fails, it's your fault. Nobody else's. And so if what you can do with regard to community is look at building links with local communities, charities, that differentiates you. And I think one of the key things that businesses fail to have is a differentiator. You go in a restaurant and people expect now to have a decent food. It's the wow factor. It's like the old Indian restaurants. There's a lot of the Indian restaurants. We go in there and it's, they bring the poppadoms, they'll bring the whole thing. But there's other ways that people will then say, actually, that's a wow.
I remember I spent 17 years living in Australia, and I remember the first time that I got a cup of coffee out there and they put a little biscuit on the top of the coffee. To me, that was my wow. That was the thing that made them different. Problem is, everyone does that today, so you've got to keep chasing the wow factors.
But it's also but it's also being dare to be different.
Yeah.
So I've been going back to restaurants. I've been out in the States where they'll come and write. You go to a restaurant and it's got newspaper on the table, and then you think, what's got that on? Then they'll write your order on the newspaper, tear it off, and take it away.
Oh wow. That's different.
It's different, but
it's
but
memorable
people.
too, isn't it? Yeah.
But I'd also say about businesses is, I have a book, even now, a little red book, and I was in Disney, just 2 weeks ago with my grandchildren in Paris, and I'll pick up stuff. If you want to know about marketing, go to Disney. In terms of how they upsell stuff. If you look towards, in the old days, people used to stand in queues, and now they have special lines, but that upsell gives them more business. Yep. If you go to McDonald's, they'll talk about, do you want do you want to upsell this? And businesses tend to go along and this is my service, not offering other stuff. Yeah, and most of once again, I go back to the plumber. Yeah,
Yep.
where they'll come and do the job. They'll take the money, and walk away. Yeah. They don't ask me for a review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very important piece.
And what they won't do is talk about the other services they offer.
So, what sort of role does the Best of Walsall play in this community in terms of the business? What do you see your role?
What we want to try and do is bring the cohesion between the business. One of the phrases I use is keeping the pound in Walsall.
Yep.
So through the networking, it's bringing the businesses together to work with each other, use each other, rather than going outside of Walsall to get that service. Secondly, it's to give advice to businesses. And my team, I always sit there at the end of the month and say, well, look, how many jobs have we created, not through ourselves, but through those businesses, because we've helped them.
Because you brought them together.
100%. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, although I'm now semi-retired. I've had a 20 million turnover business, but I enjoy meeting businesses. I learn a lot from businesses and trying to apply it across the piece.
So what advice then finally would you give a young startup, someone just looking to set out? What advice would you give them around building a good strong brand and standing out from their competitors?
Okay, I think there's a difference between brand and marketing.
Yep.
Yeah, I will see businesses that will set up and then they'll go and spend £3,000 or £4,000 on a roundabout in Walsall, or a sign at Walsall Football Club. And I'm going, well, actually, what you've got to think about is, crudely, bums on seats. Yeah?
Yep.
So what you first and foremost, have a business plan. Yeah? You need to have goals. Because goals are trigger action. And I'll always use the analogy: if you went to a football match and there were two teams playing and there were no goal nets, you'd soon get bored. Yeah. And we focus on our goals. So the first thing I'd say is sit down and do the uncomfortable stuff, which is the business plan. Yeah. Yep. Secondly, I'd say use all the free facilities available in terms of marketing. So set up a Google My Business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can go on and populate that because that's free.
Yep.
Set up a business Facebook page. Don't use your personal page, because if you use your personal page and Facebook find out about it, they'll turn you off.
Yep.
Yeah. Build likes on that page. Yeah. Get people to share posts that you do on there. Yeah. Think about your sector, and who you're trying to attract. Yeah. But don't skimp on your marketing. And finally, spend time each week on the business, not in it. Because if not, it becomes feast and famine. So you'll get lots of orders in one week and get none the next. And probably the most important of all is get reviews and recommendations from your customers, because that is so important. Get them onto your Google reviews, get reviews on your Facebook page, because people nowadays don't want to be pioneers. And I'll see people come to network meetings, businesses will come to network meetings, and they'll say, oh, I've just started in business. Well, I'm going, well, do I want to be the first one to try that business? If I went to a dentist and he said, oh, do you know you're the first customer I've ever dealt with? I'd be saying, well, I don't really want to deal with you.
No, thanks.
Yeah. So, you've got background in it. Sorry, the other thing I say, is don't turn your hobby into a business, because what happens, a lot of businesses fail. And if you turn your hobby into a business, then what's going to happen there is, if your business fails, you're going to lose your hobby.
Yeah, I think those Google reviews, like you say, they're very, very important, because they about building the trust wall. People get trust and build up trust in you through that.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great. It's been great chatting. Any other final last things?
Yeah, every day.
I knew I couldn't stop you.
Every day is a learning day. Even now, I will have by my bed 3 or 4 different books on business, and read about business books. Some of them, like Michael Gerber, E-Myth Revisited. I say that's almost like one of the Bibles. The Stephen Coveys of this world. And you can now get them on.
On your ears.
Whichever way you want to do it.
Audio books,
but I think the biggest problem, people are educated when they go to school, they go into university, is what you got to go is go and work for a big company. I was self-employed. My first business set up. I started in the bank in Walsall at 17. My father had been in business. He went off to South America. I was in digs at 17. At 21, I realised I was not a very good employee, and I set my first business up. But you've got to take risks in business, and that's what. And you've got to take calculated risks, not stupid risks, if you want to get on.
And provided you've got a plan, and you've got a plan ahead of you where you're trying to go, and some goals, like you said earlier, that's, it's okay taking those risks if they're the right risks.
100%.
And I think that one of the biggest takeaways I've just picked up from this morning is about leaning into your fear. Don't be fearful, lean into it. Well, thank you for your chat today. It's been absolutely wonderful, and I look forward to our breakfast together on Friday in your networking meeting. And it's been a great chat. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.